so excited to welcome the stars / writers / directors / producers of Jane Austen's period drama here on Temple of Geek. Would you three be open to introducing yourselves and how you were involved in this short film?
Yeah. I'm Steve Pinder, and I'm a co-writer, co-director.
And I'm Julia Aks, co-writer, co-director, and actor.
And I'm Ellie Ligursky, and I'm the producer.
Amazing. So one of the things I loved about Jane Austen's period drama is that it takes the mick in a loving way out of like Jane Austen movies and Bridgerton and all the Regency drama romances that we love so much. But parody is such a specific, tricky form of comedy. But Julia and Steve, it's something you two do so well and have made a name for yourselves in. What appeals to you about doing parody / satire of, Julie Andrews songs or Ariana Grande or a Jane Austen movie?
Well, I think we've both kind of just always liked it. We've been fans of parody, and there's something very delightful and satisfying about watching something that feels familiar and then suddenly it's turned on its head. So we began as fans of it. And then with Jane Austen's period drama, it's our first foray as a duo into narrative satire. And it always feels like if you package something in a familiar way, it can eliminate like the initial barrier of storytelling, which is why I think satire is so great. So if you're a fan of Jane Austen, you can watch Jane Austen's period drama, and you'll also get a lot of menstruation in there. But you can also just be a fan of Jane Austen's movies, or you could be a fan of menstruation and also watch Jane Austen's period drama.
Yeah, I also think I personally started writing parody stuff because I couldn't figure out how to write anything else. It was just like a genre that felt like I intuitively knew how to do. And then I think as we've grown as filmmakers, like the satire piece started to show up as a way to communicate something that we felt passionate about through the parody form. So and then I just love it. So
I just love it.
Yeah.
So my next question, you've taken away the question, or any doubt that if you're a Jane Austen fan or a Bridgerton fan, you'll enjoy this movie. What if you're not familiar with this kind of subgenre of rom-com and romances? Will you still be able to enjoy Jane Austen's period drama?
I think as long as you know that Jane Austen exists, you'll have a great time.
Yeah. And
that's all you need to know.
Yeah. And I was even saying the other day, I feel like even if you've seen the movie Titanic, any sort of over the top romance and I shouldn't even say over the top because obviously that's a masterpiece of a film, but you know what I mean? It's even seeing a film of that genre, you will understand the comedy and the, and the vibe behind it. Because you definitely don't need to be aware of the Jane Austen universe to love it. I think people will get it still.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the subject matter is so relatable. I feel like some of the people who have responded to the humor best are some men and some people who don't engage with this narrative, this narrative history and this narrative form very, very well or very often.
Amazing. So speaking of which, menstruation is an uncomfortable subject for most women to talk about, even the ones who've been doing it for decades, let alone men. Yet something I loved about the short is that it struck such a delicate balance between humor and heart. You're never making fun of the characters who aren't fully in the know. You treat them with such love. So what do you think was important to do or to have in order to walk that tightrope between humor and not alienating anyone?
No, you go.
I was going to say, that's we talk about that a lot. It's a big part of our process and a big part of the conversations that we have every day is and it's mostly that it's really easy to want to just write jokes and just joke after joke after joke after joke. And I think for both of us as viewers of movies, we've found that we love comedy, but the things that resonate the deepest are the moments of heart. Mm. And that's really what we're looking for and engaging with when we go to the theater. So as we get into those moments of joke after joke after joke, we we have to like slow ourselves down and remind ourselves that that's not really the end goal, that the goal is to find these moments of richness and connection. So yeah, I think that is very intentional. It's a very intentional part of our process.
And we did also talk a lot about not writing something that was quote unquote man-hating. It's something that was important to me since I first had the initial idea, and very important to Steve. And we had a lot of conversations about how to portray the men in the film with a lot of compassion, and also the women who were still overcoming their own stigma about their bodies. So we wanted to just treat everybody. I know in my own life and in my family, like there are people that I love very much who I wanted to welcome and also represent and not antagonize completely, because I mean, there is obviously a goal with this short to inspire people to be more open about menstruation. And that means everybody. That means men included. And that means older men included, and older women and younger women. You know, so we really tried to be very conscious to treat everybody with compassion in the short. And so thank you for saying that we struck that balance.
I also think, like casting played a big part in that too. Casting Lachlan Taimua Hannemann, he brought like a kind of gravity to the character. Like the character could be so silly and so dismissible.
The character of Mr. Dickley.
The character of Mr. Dickley, thank you. I mean, his name is Mr. Dickley. But Locke brought this depth to that part that enriched the romantic core of the story. So between the two of them, there was just something there, some magic.
Yeah, it's something I also loved about the film is that I think, especially just Steve, because you're bringing up the performances, everyone is fully committed to the bit. Even though it's an uncomfortable subject, no one's kind of looking at the camera and winking, being like, oh, this is weird, right? I think what makes the short so successful and the film so successful is this like production-wide commitment to like the discomfort and then the beauty in this discomfort that y'all have portrayed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because we got so lucky with our cast and our whole crew. Like it was really amazing, because it was like people were responding very well to the script, and so it was like everybody just kind of assembled and like got it, and then they wanted to like bring the best version of it, and like obviously like our cast was amazing, but again, like all of our department heads too. Like it was just sort of like, again, everybody like understood the balance that we were trying to make. And so they brought their whole selves forward and brought their best work. And anyway, so it does mean a lot to hear that we did it, because that's what we were always hoping for. And that's what we were, everybody was hoping for when they were working on it. So.
And we were very intentional when looking for actors to look for dramatic actors because we felt, and again, this short is sort of our first foray into narrative filmmaking as a duo and discovering our collective tone. So we had an inkling that we really thought that our writing and our humor does best when you have actors that fully commit earnestly to the stakes of what we've written, as opposed to looking for actors who only do comedy, or looking going to improv schools, or looking for stand-ups or people who live there. So we're very pleased. We just incredibly lucky with who ended up signing on.
As you should be. I mean, you should be very pleased. I don't know how much luck had to do with it. Even though short films might have the same runtime as their feature-length counterparts, it doesn't mean their budgets are any less expensive to make a great product like yours. How did you fundraise and make the most of every cent?
Yeah, well, I was just like, I can take that. So it was just sort of like, when we began this process of like actual pre-production, it was right before the actors went on strike last year. And I won't bore anybody with the details of that, because we all lived it, right? And so it was like, there was one agreement with SAG that allowed us to film. And it was like, we had to work with that budget and that budget alone, because that was like the one agreement that we could film with that didn't require us to get a waiver. Because at that time, like there was so much like speculation of like, what is this waiver going to be? And like, for us, like we are not a multi-million-dollar budget. Like, we can't just like, oh, whatever, we can like push the shoot a week until this waiver comes through. So it was sort of like we were kind of locked into this lower budget range. And I think the thing that made, I mean, like I said, like we got very lucky with all of our department heads and cast and crew, because it was like people who are used to working at a very high level and high budget ranges, because they responded so well with the script and the story and the message, they were willing to come on and like help us out. And so it was like, we got, you know, like that was one way that we like, you know, made the most of every penny, was that we got like really high caliber talent that was willing to work with us. And then like the other thing that I want to give like immense credit to is our location, because it was like, once we found that house, it was like, wow, like that was just like, because that was obviously like as much of a character as any of the cast members. And so it was like, that was, once we found that, it was just sort of like, it all came together and it all made the shoot possible, because it was like, because we, you know, like obviously there is a version of this short film that could have taken place in a castle in England, but it was like, we had to be more realistic and pragmatic with that, with our, you know, budget and like logistical limitations at the time.
Yeah, can I say the house is in La Cañada.
Yeah, exactly.
La Cañada, Flint Ridge, just north of Pasadena.
Yeah.
So it's like this house that was built in 1929. You can rent it. You know, You can hire it on whatever share grid.
Yeah, those things.
And they had a bunch of like production design element, like furniture things that they were willing to let us use. So it was a lot of little things like that in a lot of different departments that just turned into gifts. I mean, I think Julie and I were prepared to make this movie for nothing, like, which is what we always do, you know, like what we have historically done. And we really just were like bowled over by how much support arose from our communities. It was just incredible. So that's kind of how we made it happen.
We also had, Steve and I had quite a bit of experience during 2019 when we were collaborating on stuff for my YouTube channel, which was a string of music videos and parody and sketch comedy. And I paid for all of that out of my savings, which was not very much money. So we got pretty good practice at like being real scrappy and being really scrappy in a lot of different kinds of ways. There's one sketch where I had to turn Steve's apartment into Hogwarts and with shower curtains, and it ended up looking great on camera, but I don't know. So like that creative muscle and of like, where can you scrimp and save? And then like, where does it really count on screen for you to like put the bulk of that money? We had quite a bit of practice, trial and error, figuring that out when we were doing a lot of stuff for YouTube. And then, so we just tried to do it on a bigger scale. All that being said, this movie definitely I was still shocked at how expensive movies can be.
Yes.
Even with all the generosity and the luck and the favors and all that stuff that came in.
Well, yeah. And I think we also decided going into this project that like we, you know, well, I don't, can I say this? This might need to get deleted. We'll see. But like,
it's not live.
we you know, we wanted to be able to pay everybody.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to be able to pay people, which like when we're making little YouTube videos, like we just had to call in favors from friends and they would do things like they would come on set for 4 hours for free or whatever. And that was awesome and so great. But we don't want to work like that anymore. You know, we want to create a work environment that people want to be part of, where they're supported financially by the project, you know? So I think that's also was a very intentional thing we wanted to be able to do.
That's amazing.
And there's, and also along those lines, not to talk about this question forever, but like there are people who have been with me for years that I've used, like Darren, our sound guy, who is incredible and did pretty much all the sound from top to bottom on this script. Like he was my sound guy on the first sketch I ever did that is barely on my YouTube channel. And it's like, I paid him pennies back then, you know what I mean? And so to be able to kind of grow and pay him at least closer to what he's worth for something was really heartening. And that's something we want to do. We want to keep growing and be able to pay people what they're worth and what they want.
amazing. Quick follow-up question. Where, like, I'm curious, what were the aspects of the film that you felt you really needed to invest in, and what were the things where you're like, oh, we can be smart about this, or we can be, scrappy about this.
I mean, locations were the biggest things that we were like, we have to find the right location that makes this world feel real, and like a English location in the 1810s, and it has to be at a really low price point. You know what I mean? Like, so that was one of the most important things that we were willing to spend what we had. I mean, what we had to spend on, but it still, I don't know, still didn't add up to much. Luckily, I mean, like the exterior location is in upstate New York. And we had no plans to go over there. Like Julia and I did this whole crazy, like week-long location scout in LA where we were trying to figure out like where we could shoot a green hill. And we like found ourselves like at Forest Lawn Cemetery and like at, what's the place?
Pepperdine. We're like, because we're like, who in Los Angeles waters their hill in July?
Yeah.
And we're like, Pepperdine and cemeteries. And then like that was just to find any like vaguely green hill, because everything else we talked about VFXing like the crusty, dusty hills of Los Angeles green. And the more we talked to VFX artists, it turned out it was actually going to be budgetarily comparable to flying a skeleton crew to upstate New York to just film in actual green hills. So, and that's what we ended up doing.
But what happened in upstate New York is that our DP, Luca, lives there. And so when we were trying to figure out all this stuff in LA, he sent us pictures from his like backyard and was like, well, what if you shot here? And we were like, oh yeah,
maybe.
So little magical things like that happened,
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna say, and like we like had a very generous donation of all the Sky Miles that it was just like so it was like use again like little miracles, little gifts that were given to us like that, and then it was like with our costumes were another like hugely important thing, and we were so extraordinarily lucky in that we had connections to costume designers that had worked in theater and like had access to stuff at like rock bottom prices. So it was like, when, little miracles like that were happening, it would open up, a little bit of budget to, the location, to the production design, to stuff like that. So it was like, that's where, anyway, that was a very, I know that we keep talking about maximizing this, so I won't go on too much longer, but it was just like, those were the things that made us maximize the things that we really wanted to care about. Because it was like, obviously it's a period film. We want it to look like a period film. So it's like, that's what we had to really focus on. So.
Yeah, well, y'all spent wisely because, again, I thought y'all were in the Cotswolds.
Great.
We love hearing that.
The short is going to have its premiere at the prestigious Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Do you have any advice for fellow filmmakers taking their work on the festival circuit? Is there something you did when applying, submitting, making the film that felt particularly effective in getting it this kind of attention?
I mean, it felt... since this is our world premiere, this is the very beginning of our film festival run, hopefully. What is a run, hopefully?
Yes.
But I will say something that I feel very good about is how we just like psychologically and emotionally are thinking about film festivals. And we didn't really make the film with festivals in mind. We just wanted to make a film that was very us, that we were really proud of, and then just kind of like find out where it lands, because then we would just know. And that was sort of paramount to, that was our main concern. It's like, well, if we make something that is just unapologetically us and like see where it lands, and then we can adjust from there, or we'll just know, and we're never going to stop making stuff, even if we never got into a film festival. So, we're very excited to be at Santa Barbara, especially since we're all based in LA. It's so close to home. So many of our cast and crew are going to be able to come up and see the world premiere, which is very exciting. And yeah, the festival itself has been so welcoming and so communicative with us. They just seem like a wonderful group of people who really care about the films and the filmmakers who they've accepted. So, we try not to worry too much about acceptance rates to festivals, but we are also like utterly overjoyed when we do get accepted, especially into a place like Santa Barbara.
The other thing is we are also coming, I think it is very easy as a filmmaker submitting to festivals to get very jaded by the process of oh, it's all rigged, all this stuff. And so I just I just want people to know that we didn't have an in, and it really was just Steve and Julia sitting at the computer, just doing the application, submitting and all that stuff. And even though it feels like you're just sending stuff into a void, it is ultimately worth it. And so it's I just my only for as far as advice goes, it's just just do it. There are festivals like this one that genuinely do care, and it's not all a jaded rigged system. People are actually looking for good movies out there. So if you have one, just keep submitting it, and it will go somewhere. The cream always rises to the top. So not to say that we are the cream that rose to the top. You know what I mean?
I think that is what you said.
I think that is exactly
Stop it. So would you say being able to have the cast and a good chunk of the team with you in Santa Barbara for the premiere is the aspect you're most excited about having Jane Austen's period drama have its world premiere at Santa Barbara? Is there something else you're really looking forward to about the festival?
Well, the thing about comedies, is you want to see it with a crowd of strangers. Ideally, and I think that's the part that I'm most looking forward to.
Same.
You want to see it on the, you make a short film, you want to see it on the big screen for one, and then as a comedic film, I can't wait to just be in a theater full of people that I don't know and just see what they laugh at, if they laugh, and what parts, you can always feel in the theater if you could hear a pin drop, if you really kind of hit a dramatic moment well, and it's I can't wait to see it in a theater with everyone.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that'll be great. And I think that you will definitely get quite a few laughs, I have a feeling. Speaking of which, when and where can we see Jane Austen's period drama at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, or as the cool kids call it, SPIFF? And then also, is there anywhere folks can watch it outside of the festival after it premieres?
At the festival, we are part of the Comedy Shorts block, which is playing on February 9th at 4:20 p.m. and February 10th at 1:20 p.m. at the Fiesta 5 in Auditorium 4.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And then for afterward, we don't know yet.
That's the only hard part about, not the only hard part. That's the hard part about festivals for me is I would love to put this thing online tomorrow if I could, but when you're waiting to hear back, festivals, you can't put it online anywhere.
Yeah.
But mark my words, as soon as we can, that thing will be plastered.
Yes. Yeah, I think we always meant for it to have a life online, like the rest of the stuff that we've done together. We kind of believe that it belongs to anyone who wants to experience it.
Amazing. And then where can we find all of you three online if we want to engage with more of your work?
Well, for me, the bulk of my work, I guess, lives on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Julia Aks. And my handle is @Jaxicle, which is sort of like testicle or popsicle.
Whatever your preference is.
JuliaAks.com. There's, online presence. But the work, I guess, my stuff is on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. And that's my work too.
Yeah, and I think most of my stuff is my ultimate love language is Instagram, and I'm found on Instagram at Legersk, Legersk. So yeah, but anyway.
Amazing. Well, if anyone's up in Santa Barbara, they definitely have to check out the Comedy Shorts block, and wishing you all the best on the rest of the journey with this amazing short.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.